When I started thinking about what video I wanted to produce for this week, one of the obvious choices that stood out to me was sharing my ideas and strategies around how to create a calendar that will best set you up for the week ahead. And I started thinking in my head about how I would create that video and how I would structure my time based on my work and my commute and what I would do after work and everything else that I'd have going on. But the problem I very quickly encountered was that if you don't have any direction, then what's the point in organizing your day-to-day life? So with that, I decided actually what I need to do first is share with people how I create direction in my life and how I plan a year in advance of the things I want to do, and then how do I go into the nitty-gritty of how I structure that into my calendar. Hi, I'm Tom, also known as Brick Guy, and I'm here to help people build their ultimate stream life balance, really helping them to understand the day-to-day challenges that come with streaming and techniques and advice to help them get through those hurdles. I post on YouTube once a week to make sure that you can spend more time focusing on your stream than you do watching general YouTube videos. But if you do want to see more of me outside of YouTube, I'm also streaming on Twitch on Tuesdays and Saturdays. All the links to everything will be in the description below. But today what I'm here to do is to talk you through how I had my most productive year ever. And it all starts with the Wheel of Life. So we'll get into that right now. So here we are with our Wheel of Life. This is my Wheel of Life, and I like to title it My Ideal Year. The reason I do this is because what this allows me to do is set out exactly what I want to achieve over the course of the next 12 months. Now, I originally started doing this back in 2018, and it's fair to say that was probably one of my most successful and productive years I've ever had in my life. I surprised even myself by the end of it, and for some reason I think I just got bogged down with other things. I never really got back into it after 2018, so I had all of this success and then never really took it forward through 2019 or even for this year 2020. And as you can see here, I've got the date here, 29th of December 2019. Yeah, I actually never did anything with it once I closed the tab on that date. So I'm hoping that as a result of this video, not only it helps you, but I'm hoping it helps me as well. And the setup of the document is quite straightforward. It does take a bit of time and effort to get through, but the overall concepts are really simple and something that anyone should be able to do. And what this will enable you to do is to really set some direction for your life and what it is that you want to achieve by taking an idea of where you are now, where you want to be, and what are the steps in between needed to get you there. So if we start off, first of all, we want to think about where we want to be. And if you can distill this into a single sentence or even a phrase, then that can be your mission statement for this year. So just like businesses, in a way, we have to think of ourselves like that. Every business has a mission statement. Unfortunately for them, a lot of the time they're very generic and very bland. For us, this is something that's a lot more personal. We should have a bit of emotion behind this and something that really means something to us. So think about where you are now, and again, the rest of the exercises we'll go through here will help you do this. But then think about if you could summarize what you'd like to have achieved or what kind of feeling you'd like to have by the end of the year. You can summarize that in one sentence. That can be your mission statement. And I guess before we move on, I should make it clear that all of this is in a Google Slides document, and I will be making this publicly available for everyone to download. The link for this document will be in the description below. But I have some other things I want to show you first before you start clicking, and then I'll get you through the instructions of how to do things with the document once you get there. But first of all, once you've done the mission statement, and again, that can be something that comes later. The mission statement can, although it is the first thing we work on in this document, it can in fact be the last thing you do. The vision statement, what happens next, is really a nicely written summary of what you'd like to have achieved by the end of the year. And you want to really make a story out of it. You want to think about, okay, if I was looking back on the year I'm about to have, what would I say about that year? What would I have achieved? How do I feel? What have I done? What have I achieved? Who am I interacting with? What have I accomplished as a result of this year? And what you're going to do is you're going to focus this specifically on eight key areas of our lives. And for me, these are the areas that work well for me. I've seen these exercises done with just 6 aspects. I've seen them done with 10. I've seen them done with completely different categories that I haven't even thought of. But for me, I feel like the categories I'm about to share with you are the ones that cover almost all aspects of my life. And these are career, money, health, relationships, love, personal growth, fun, and the physical environment, basically where you live. And if you're able to write 2 to 3, maybe 4 sentences about each of those 8 things and what you would have liked to have achieved with all of those things by the end of the year, it really helps to set you up for some really nice visualization where you can actually see in your head what you'll have achieved, and it just helps to make this whole thing feel a lot more real rather than just some idealistic wishy-washy thinking in your head that you never get down on paper. And when you're doing this, you're more than welcome to use facts and figures and numbers. You can use emotions, you can use feelings, you can use sentiments and how you feel about stuff. Basically, any wording or structure that you want to create that will help you make it feel real, use whatever you need to make that happen, basically. And if you can measure it as well, so I've achieved this specific thing and I can say I've achieved it by this thing happening, then that will make it feel a lot more reachable and achievable. But ultimately what this vision statement does is, as it says here, it sets you up for the next part of the exercise. And this part is probably one of the more fun parts of this exercise. This is the Wheel of Life. And the Wheel of Life is a way of looking at your life in, as you can see here, the form of a wheel, where you are mapping out exactly where you feel you are at this current stage in time. And the idea of it is that you're supposed to give each aspect of the wheel kind of like an equal focus, where if you've got this wheel, for example, here, I'm doing very well in everything from fun all the way to money, but when it comes to career and physical environment, I'm doing quite badly. However, if, say, I decide to, I don't know, redecorate my house or get a new house entirely or do something else like that, then that could go not off the scale, but somewhere a lot higher up, to the point where I feel a lot happier with where I feel things have gone. So, as the instructions say here, what you need to do before you start this exercise is think about what a 0 would look like. So this is all a scale of 0 to 10, and the objective is to keep everything as smooth as possible and as high as possible. So what would a 0 look like for you, and what would a 10 look like for you? But also where you are now and how does that fit on the scale between 0 and 10. That will give you the score of where you are now out of 0 and 10. So for example, you would move the physical environment down according to where you think you are now. If 10 is something that's really far off, something that needs a lot of work to get into. But really what you need to do is make sure that all the factors you're thinking about, they're all within your control and there's something that you can change and really influence. If you can't change it, it's not really worth thinking about. You need to make sure that these things are basically within your control. And the 0 and 10 benchmarks have to be things that you think could be reachable within approximately 1 year, because you don't want to be, say, thinking about money and you want to be, you ultimately you want to be a millionaire, or you want to have financial freedom, or whatever that looks like to you. However, maybe you're just starting out in a new job for the first time, fresh out of education. Of course, it wouldn't make sense to put a millionaire as number 10 unless you had a realistic chance of achieving that in 12 months. And if you do, then fair play to you. But for most of us, what we want to do is make sure that the 10s aren't so far off in the distance that making any form of progress within 1 year is barely going to, change the shape of this diagram all that much. Really, what we want to see is that ideally, say if we're at a 2 or a 3 or something low, that within a year we could get it to a 10 if we wanted to. That's the idea behind this, and this is what will keep us focused on what we feel is achievable for this year. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go through each of the 8 segments one by one. Start with career and we'll go clockwise round. So first we have career, and that's basically the job that you're doing now, or the job prospects that you have lined up. How senior you are at the job, how satisfied you are with your job, what's your work-life balance like, are you happy with the job, does the skills or the complexity of the capabilities required of the job match your own skill set, and even things like salary and perks and benefits, even though some of that ties into money, that can come into this too. Basically, anything to do with your job or your long-term career, you want to be thinking about that and how satisfied and how well rewarded you are at that job. With money, this isn't necessarily just about your job. It's mostly going to be your full-time job. However, it can be based on any other income you earn on the side as well. And in this YouTube channel, I speak mostly to Twitch streamers. And for those streamers, a lot of them are affiliated or partnered. And by being an affiliate or a partner, you can make money from Twitch and from your streaming career, which may be part-time for you and you have a full-time job or career on the other side of that. But even so, making, £100 from Twitch a month, or for example, even though that might be relatively small compared to your full-time job and what you make in a month on that, it's still something to bear in mind and add to your money, your money segment as well. But then you also need to factor in other things to do with money. So that could be how much debt you owe, do you have a mortgage, do you have any other assets that you own, are you invested in different stocks and shares? And as well as that, your general feelings around finance and money in general. If you're feeling like you're constantly low on money, even though you might not be, that could be a sign of where your financial mental health is at. And you might want to try and think of some ways to improve your state of mind when it comes to your finances over the course of the year. So maybe a 10 would look like better financial mental health, whatever that might look like. But for now, you might be a 3 or a 4, even if you are earning good money, as an example there. Health is a really interesting one. It's more around generally how healthy you feel. And again, this feels very different to different people. But generally speaking, it'll be based on how active you are and how fit you keep yourself. Do you follow healthy eating habits? Even mental health can be thrown in here as well, because that's a very important factor of health. It's not just physical health. And then just generally anything else that helps you feel energized, makes you feel happier, makes you feel like you're happy in the body that you're in. And even though I mentioned it in career, stuff like work-life balance can easily come in here as well. Relationships is about your friends and your family, not your partner or loved one. I'll make that clear off the bat. And this is really about how social, how much you keep in touch with your friends and family, and how often you see them in person versus on the phone or online. All of these things add up to relationships, because we all know that seeing people in person generally means a better relationship with them. But of course, we can't forget the day-to-day things of just checking in on people, having a call with them, and keeping that communication open with them as often as possible. So that's relationships. And then love, that's the romantic side of the relationships equation. And is basically your love life. Do you have a partner? Are you in a happy relationship? How stable is the relationship? How long has the relationship been going for? And I think most importantly, are you both aligned towards the same direction for the long term? And for some couples, that might mean marriage and kids. For some couples, maybe they don't want to get married at all, but they know they want to commit to each other for a very long time, which is equally fine. That could be a 10 for them. That's brilliant. And obviously there's people that aren't in a relationship, and a 10 might simply be going out on dates and putting myself out there in front of other people who could potentially be a good fit for me. Personal growth is one that I absolutely love. It's something I haven't been doing nearly enough, and it really comes down to how well you're developing as a person. Are you learning new skills or gaining new experiences? How many self-improvement books are you reading? What courses are you doing? Or any other form of learning new things. All of that goes into the personal growth column, which I think even if you do this activity as a whole, this if you go through this spreadsheet, I think you can easily work your personal growth up one notch just by doing that. I find personal growth is very important to me, and something I should definitely do a lot more of, and I think everyone in some way could benefit from more personal development as well. Fun is a really good one to include on here. A lot of the things on this wheel are quite serious, and they're aimed at towards progression and making improvements and generally getting better at a lot of different areas. Whereas fun, well, we all know what fun is really. It's all about how you're creating moments of joy within your life, I guess is the best way I could phrase that. And really with fun, I consider it how many resources am I investing in it. It could be time, it could be energy, it could be money, it could be I don't know what else it could be, but it can also link with other things like career. If you do a job that you love, it can work well with love and relationships, and even health. If you love running or love doing some physical sport, then fun and health can tie in very well together. And with relationships and love, it could tie in with how often you have fun with your friends and family. Are you playing video games? Are you playing board games together? Are you doing other forms of social activities that are also very fun as well? All of that goes into the fun column. And then finally, the physical environment, which, as I said before, is about where you live. Mostly it's about the house or the flat or the apartment, whatever you might like to call it, and that physical space. And when you think about that, you might want to think about, are there any home improvements you want to make? Do you want to do up the kitchen? Do you want to move from rented accommodation to having your own home? Those are all things that you should think about with the physical environment. And you can even think about things like your commute to work. How close are the shops to you? Are you close to friends and family? Do you live near them? All of those things can go into physical environment as well, because it's the general area in which you live. But do try to keep it on things that you can change, because of course if you think about local area and then you've got maybe a crime problem near where you live, that's a lot difficult to make changes for yourself besides moving. And unless you think moving is possible within the next year, it's probably not worth considering as part of your physical environment in this diagram. So what you need to do is, for all of these aspects, like I said before, is think about what a 0 would look like, what a 10 would look like. What do you think if you could achieve? What's the top end of what you could achieve for this year? You put a 10, you mark that as a 10, and then based on where you think that 10 is and what you feel a 0 is, you put where you think you are on that spectrum right now, and that becomes your score. And with this, all you need to do really is click on the shape you want to move, and then whatever dot is opposite from the one in the middle, you can just drag that in and out, and then the shape resizes itself to fit the lines. It's a bit of it's not the most graphically pleasing diagram, but it's useful and it serves its purpose really well. So have a play around, think what 4s and 5s and 6s and 7s could look like for you, as well as 2s and 3s and 8s and 9s. And have some fun with it. I'd love to know what people score themselves out in these, because it's always fun to know. I'm nosy like that. So the next one, once you've completed the Wheel of Life, and I recommend dating this as well, because what you want to do is look at this quarterly. So if we're to start at the start of the year, for example, we do one for January, then we do one for April, then we do one for July, and then for October. And that way you're able to keep track of your progress, not too often, but often enough so that by the time you do get round to the next review of your Wheel of Life, you've hopefully seen some, substantial progress, where maybe one factor increases by a score of 1, maybe 2 if you've done really well and invested a lot of time into it. So based on that Wheel of Life and looking at where you feel you are now versus where you think you could be by the end of the year, what that 10 looks like, you want to start setting some goals for the year ahead. And really for this is quite straightforward. All you need here is about 2 or 3 key goals or themes that you want to achieve that will help take you from maybe a 4 or 5 to a 9 or a 10. And we're not aiming for perfection here. We're not aiming for 10s across the board, because that is a huge investment of time and effort, but at least to push the needle and get you into, I guess, the scoring range that you want to be. The top 2 or 3 things that you think you can achieve this year, generally speaking, if you want to move those segments out and fill up that circle. So for career, this is obviously what you want to achieve in your career. And because I know I'm gearing this more towards Twitch streamers, perhaps your career does eventually become Twitch or gaming or YouTube or some form of content creation. With money, it's whether you have particular savings goals, or you want to pay off a debt, or you want to increase your income, things like that. With your health, it could be weight loss, it could be dietary changes, it could be focusing more on your mental health. For relationships, it could be seeing your family more often, it could be becoming a greater presence in your friends' lives, whatever that might look like, that's what you think about here. For love, it's obviously geared towards the more romantic sides of relationships. If you've got any big things planned with your partner this year, then that probably goes into that section. For personal growth, you might want to start thinking about what books you might want to read, what courses you want to study, what skills you want to learn, or just as a little hint there, subscribe into my YouTube channel. Just in case you haven't already, it might be worth doing. And for fun, like I said before, you can't forget about fun. We're taking everything else very seriously, but fun is where we can do something more interesting. So again, like what things spark joy for you? Is it getting the next generation console? Is it playing board games with your friends? Is it doing things outside of the home? Make sure you're making time for fun. And finally, physical environment. Again, like I said before, it could be something big like redecorating or renovating where you live, but it could even be small things like generally being more helpful around the house. I know that's always appreciated by people and helps take the burden off them while you're busy trying to focus on growing your stream. If you can at least help out where you can, then that's always appreciated. So do bear that in mind. And then the second to final part here, rocketing through this, is the key focus areas. So these are the things that you want to do. It's quite similar to the goals, but this time you're getting a lot more specific, where you're writing 2 to 3 goals that you want to achieve. Here you're thinking of maybe 4 to 6 things that you specifically want to do to reach the goals for 2020. So what 4 to 6 things can you do to get the key 2 to 3 goals? That's how I look at this. And again, it's informed by your mission statement, your vision statement, what 10 looks like on your Wheel of Life versus where you are now. And like I said before, don't aim for perfect, just aim at what you feel is progression for you. And really what you want to do is, although I've tried to squeeze everything onto a single slide here, feel free to give yourself 2, 3, even 4 slides if you really feel like you need to make sure you're very specific about what you want to achieve. And then when you have listed down everything here, it has to be quantifiable, measurable, and specific. If you can, do make it SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If you want to know more about SMART objectives, feel free to message me, or it's freely available on Google. But make sure I don't think you necessarily have to do full SMART, but at least making it quantifiable, measurable and specific is very important, because then as you go through the year, you can literally start crossing things out from these key focus areas. Once you start crossing those things out, it becomes very much a snowball effect where you can then have more motivation to complete the remaining tasks. And then as you progress through the year, all these things will start to tick up a notch. And then the final point I want to make here is the monthly brain dump. And this is really what's going to tie into my calendar video when I get round to it, which will be next week's content now. The monthly brain dump is basically based on the things you've written in your key focus areas, your goals, your wheel of life, your vision statement, and your mission statement. All of that informs a brain dump for what you want to achieve in a single month. So we're in June as I record this. It might be a bit too late to start for June, but feel free, do try. Just bear in mind you've got less time. Otherwise, feel free to start in July. But really what you're looking at is just as many things as you can think of in your head that you feel are realistically achievable within 1 month. Put them in here. No formatting, no filtering. Just put everything down and make sure you're not giving yourself too much to do. What ideally you want is to be able to tick everything off this list. So as it comes out of your head, put it down. And then once you've got a list that you think is maybe a bit of a stretch but still doable within a month, that's when you stop. Of course, you can think of more things. Feel free to start a brain dump for the next month and go like that, and just keep going and going and going. But really, this should be done on a monthly basis, and then you can keep yourself fresh and it's not feeling like so much of a slog. And the final thing I want to point out is that once you have this brain dump, that's when you can specifically take the things out of this slide and literally copy and paste them into your Google Calendar. And then these tasks here become your calendar event that you physically set time aside to do to complete that task. And we'll go into that calendar thing next week. I'm actually going to do this for myself on Sunday, and then I can show you on next week's episode how I've actually created a brain dump, what I've set for myself. I may have to keep some things private because it's my private life, but I'm sure I'll be able to share some things with you and actually how I set that up in my calendar. So very much looking forward to that. But yeah, once you watch this video, you'll then have in the description a copy of this link, a link which will allow you to copy. And all you have to do when you open this document is go to File, make a copy, entire presentation, and then make sure you save it to your Google Drive, or you can download the document as well. So to summarize, start off with the mission or vision statement, either one. Wheel of Life, do this every 3 months. Start as soon as you do this document. I arguably feel this is the most important thing you can do. Goals for 2020, this should only be done once, ideally. Key focus areas, this should only be done once as well. A monthly brain dump is every month. And then your calendar arranging and your scheduling is done every week. Now the things that I say do once, the goals, the key focus areas, the mission statement, the vision statement, if halfway through the year you feel like it's not working for you or you're no longer aligned with that vision, don't worry. Feel free to change it. Ideally you do keep it the same because it's something you at one point in time you did want, but if you find you no longer want it anymore or you want to head in a different direction, then by all means change it. It's entirely up to you. This is your statement, this is your vision, and it's your life at the end of the day, so make sure it works for you. But yeah, with that said, let's change back to my other scene. If you have any questions whatsoever about this document, if there's any suggestions you want to make, if there's any improvements you have, or anything else related to this document, then feel free to leave me a comment on this video or find me on Twitter at BrickGuyTV, nice and easy. Again, links to Twitter, to the video, will be in this document, but all my other social media links will be in the description below. So feel free to click those and get in touch. And I hope you find some use and some value out of this, because for me, this was it was this exercise, and importantly, doing it routinely every week, every month, every 3 months, and then unfortunately not every year, otherwise I probably wouldn't be sitting here moaning about how I haven't done it. But by making it a regular process, I was able to have one of the most successful years in my life, particularly when it came to my career and my personal development. So if it helped me that much, then I'm sure it can help all of you a lot as well. So anyway, I'll stop waffling on. Feel free to download Document, have a play around with it, let me know what you think. And next week I will produce a video around scheduling your calendar based on exactly this document. So until then, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.